Hello and welcome to Transfermarkt TV. I'm Manuel. He is Stefan Bienkowski, and today's topic is Roméo Lavia, the Southampton defensive central midfielder, heavily linked with a move to Liverpool. I've seen some of those transfer fees that have been speculated, Stefan, and there are eye-watering, crazy amount of money that is being speculated here. I guess the question then is, why would Liverpool pay in the excess of 50 million euros for a player who's only 19, only played one season really with Southampton? Of course, they bought him for just 12.3 million euros from Manchester City's youth academy. Didn't even play at the first team there. What's the hype? What's going on here?
Yeah, so I mean, Lavia's always kind of had, I guess not always since he was so young, but since he started playing football at senior level, he's been very highly regarded in English football. I think Southampton and their fans were actually very excited by the transfer last summer when he managed to get that one over the line. I think it was quite late on as well. So,
Yeah.
and he has kind of gone on to prove to be very easily and very quickly a first team regular at Southampton. Of course, the club itself and the team overall weren't deemed good enough for the Premier League. They obviously got relegated, but I think Lavia kind of sailed through the season for the most part with flying colours. And I think what's really worth bearing in mind with him is that while he maybe didn't really stand out in terms of, if you look at the overall kind of picture of the Premier League, when you narrow down his stats to other players who are, say, like 22 years old and under, and, those kind of central midfielding roles, that's when he really does shine. And some numbers that stand out that I found, which were quite remarkable, are the fact that, he was first for blocked passes, he was second for recoveries, fourth for tackles won, and fourth for ground duels won, and that's amongst all central midfielders 22 years or younger in the Premier League last season. So what that kind of says is, now I get that that's a very kind of narrow kind of filter we've applied there, but what that means is that among, shall we say, the players in his class or his age range, he's one that really stands out, and it's kind of suggests he's well on his way to becoming a Premier League leading central midfielder, holding midfielder, defensive midfielder, whatever you want to call him. And that's exactly why Liverpool are so desperate to sign him, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I just look at the list. There's 5 players that have played defensive midfield or central midfield for Liverpool last season that are already gone. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen with Thiago. He might be on his way out as well, so that would be 6. 22 players in the first team at the moment, 21 if Thiago leaves. Stefan, Southampton probably playing their cards pretty well by asking the world of Liverpool for this young player, because they know that Liverpool will have to pay it, because they need bodies. I mean, at this point, they just need even bodies in that position, let alone good players. I guess that's why Southampton is holding out, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's always this kind of suggestion in football that you should really get the players you want signed tied down before you sell the players you want to sell, because the money you do make from transfer sales usually inflates the prices you have to pay afterwards. And that might be what's happening here at Liverpool. Of course, remember that both Jordan Henderson and Fabinho have moved on to Saudi clubs for the best part of 60 million euros. And even though this Lavia transfer saga kind of started before all that, Southampton are well aware of the fact that, Liverpool have money to burn. And I think I read in one report that the most recent offer they made, which is about £41 million, so about 9 million or 10 million euros or pounds short of what Southampton won, was rejected within the hour. So that just goes to show how serious Southampton are about getting what they want. They know Liverpool have money. I guess Southampton want it. And I must admit, I do kind of feel some degree of sympathy for Liverpool fans here. The window started really impressively with the signing of McAllister. We did a video on that recently. Szoboszlai as well. I think we've done one on him as well, actually. 2 really impressive kind of players who can play central midfield roles. And all of a sudden, it felt like Liverpool were finally kind of getting that midfield problem under control. And then, of course, these offers come in for Fabinho, Jordan Henderson, which probably just weren't as expected from Liverpool. They've got good prices for them both, but it kind of means Liverpool back to square one. And it now means Lavia is going to have to be signed, or someone like him. Perhaps more worryingly to an extent, perhaps for Jurgen Klopp, is that he's not really going to have time to embed this young player in. He's going to have to slot in almost immediately in that kind of Fabinho role. And assuming they do get a deal over the line, I'm sure they probably will before the end of the summer. It still leaves some question marks as to how quickly Lavia can kind of settle into that Liverpool team, because although he did very well at Southampton, it's obviously a huge step up to join a club like Liverpool, which have obvious ambitions in the Premier League and the Champions League.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that Saudi money kind of blindsided Jurgen Klopp here a little bit, and maybe, as you said, made plans a little bit more complicated. And don't worry, we'll cover all the Saudi money at the end of the transfer window, because I think there's a lot to cover here. But as for Lavia, this is going to be very, very interesting to see how this plays out, and whether Liverpool can get Southampton to agree a price. Obviously, Stefan, there is a history here, right? They have done this before with Southampton. There's a couple of other players that they have signed from there. And, I think every time it was a transfer saga as well. So, yeah, I think these two clubs know exactly what to get from one another. So, maybe just a final assessment. How do you think this was going to play out?
I mean, from what I can tell, the asking price of Southampton won and what Liverpool are offering is not that far away. I'm sure Liverpool fans will be cursing their phones every time they read the latest updates and thinking, just pay the extra money, get this deal over the line, and I'm sure Liverpool will do exactly that. I don't think it's going to end up like the Van Dijk situation, which rumbled on for season after season. I think this one will probably get settled quite quickly, and I think Southampton are well aware that a player like Lavia probably deserves to maybe move on and play in the Premier League next season. So, yeah, I think this one will be sorted very quickly.
Yeah, and you can follow it all on Transfermarkt, of course. If the transfer does go through, you can check it out in our stats page and our latest transfer news ticker that we have. And we have, of course, much more. Discuss it in our forums. Check out our social media, etc., etc. We'll be back soon with more content. Until then, cheers and bye-bye.